I always love the story on Mars Hill on the Areopagus. The philosophers are totally with him right up until he starts talking about resurrection, and then they're like, what?" And we talk so much on this show about, as you so often say, our diagnosis is death. And in my study of other religions, I have this broad sense. I'm sure there are exceptions, but I have this broad sense. Most of the world's religions, past and present, if not all the world's religions, past and present, are in some way, shape, or form a response to the problem of death. And what's interesting with these Greek philosophers who are very wise, this idol to an unknown God, as you said, there are many different ways we could interpret what it's for, and they're all wise from a certain point. Appeasing a god, you don't know who it is, but you know you need their help. Appeasing a god, you don't know who it is because you're afraid you've offended. All these different things. That's wise from a pagan point of view. And yet, their response to the problem of death isn't the problem, being alive is the problem. Why would we want to come back? And from a certain point of view, come back to what we know, come back to this again. Yeah, why would we want that? That's understand. And so on a certain level, they don't understand what he means by resurrection. They're hearing it more like reincarnation, and I can understand why they would respond the way they do. But it's such a unique response where for most people, it's the way of faithfulness, the virtue that we're called to emulate just looks impossible. For so many places in the Gospels and in Acts, we see people saying, "Look, well, who can possibly do this stuff you're talking about having us do? Nobody can do that." And these guys are like, I don't want to do this again. Like, I don't care what version of it is. I don't want to do it twice. Why would I want to do it twice? And that's so peculiar. And it's interesting because the culture we live in now has such a mania around health and youth and optimizing everything about our physical being while simultaneously spending almost none of our life paying attention to our physical life. Other than when we're at the gym or eating our protein shake, we spend the rest of our life in this abstract digital space while being beyond terrified about death, really. And I think people talk about our culture being post-Christian and they focus on the decline in morality and they on the decline in civility and they focus on the problems of diversity if they think that's what's going on. In many ways, the real reason why our culture is a post-Christian culture is because people are terrified of death. And the whole point of the gospel is death is dead.